Hello and welcome to my Empires Apart review. Empires Apart is a real-time strategy game developed by indie team Destiny Bit and published by Slytherin. The game releases on the 29th of March 2018. Now, Empires Apart is a traditional RTS. You start with a town center and some villagers, start collecting resources, advance your economy and military, build fortifications, and conquer your enemies. Sounds very familiar, right? So before we go any further, we have to address the elephant in the room with this game. Empires Apart is essentially Age of Empires. Destiny Bit has obviously taken inspiration from the franchise and, to be honest, hasn't changed the formula all that much. The buildings and resources are almost one-to-one with Age of Empires. You've got the town center and villagers, there's even sheep and a scout. Your start is almost identical. Then you've got your food, wood, gold and stone resources, and you're probably wondering what, if anything, is even different. The differences are subtle, but they do change how the game feels. For starters, you don't advance your age through the town center. Instead, economic and military advancements are done independently of buildings and can be triggered multiple times each. There's a stronger focus on faction differentiation also. There's 6 factions in total, and all factions roughly have the same buildings, but how they operate and what they produce is often unique. Let's take a look at temples as an example building. All temples for all factions produce one type of unit, a sort of priest who can gather relics. But that's where the similarities end. For the Byzantines, priests can provide movement and gathering buffs to villagers. For the French, their priests build up an ability over time that blesses units to provide them with permanent combat buffs. For the Chinese, their priests are warrior monks who are formidable fighters and can heal those around them. The Arabs will convert enemy units to friendly units. The Aztecs will also heal allied units around them and curse enemy units, slowing their movement and attack. And the Mongol priests ride on horseback and can cast an ability that allows units a greater dodge chance. So that was just one building and one unit that plays vastly different across all the factions. You can see that the Byzantines will be better positioned to have stronger economy if their priests provide natural buffs to gathering, whereas the Chinese will be more aggressive, with warrior monks healing and fighting at the front lines. Buildings work a little bit differently too. In Empires Apart, there's a universal storage depot instead of individual resource buildings. An interesting aspect to the Arabs is that if they build a mill, which is basically an economic technology building, next to their farms, they'll provide a buff around them. So while most factions might only ever build one mill to get those economic buffs, the Arabs will be better positioned to build multiple and keep their farms closer together. It's differences like these that create a lot of nuance to the game. As for how combat works and plays out, it's again just like Age of Empires, however there's a much easier system for managing control groups and allowing you to select different formation stances and maneuver quickly. Units do tend to blob up and cut through each other really fast though, so it can often be hard to read the battle at any one time to see what is and what isn't working. The last major difference is the inclusion of hero type characters. These are slightly stronger units that usually can do something really special, like buff an area for combat or spawn units instantly. They're created at castles, and I was a little bit worried about them, but they're actually pretty weak. I was afraid that they'd be a big focus of the game, but it seems like they're just like any other unique, rare unit on the battlefield. If you focus on them with enough archers or something heavy, they'll die pretty easily. Empires Apart has a really nice minimalistic art style that is extremely functional for differentiating between different units and buildings at a high level. Everything's made up of low vertex polygons and just flat colors instead of detailed textures, with soft lighting giving everything definition. There's a few different biomes like winter, forest, desert and lakes, and the maps look beautiful with fluttering grass and rolling waves. It's running with Unreal Engine and is silky smooth and has quite an enjoyable soundtrack to accompany it that fits the theme of the game. What is perhaps most impressive is the clean and clear UI. Most strategy games have a heap of tooltips and overbearing amounts of information in hard to find places, but Empires Apart lays out its UI in such a clear way that I honestly don't feel the tutorial is even necessary, especially for people already familiar with this type of gameplay. Beyond just the gameplay, the menu, online screens and post-battle breakdowns again are all extremely easy to read and give you pretty much all the information you want. If you're ever stuck for something, you can check their encyclopedia text screens to see and compare all the different faction features, and it all fits on one screen. Empires Apart is primarily designed to be a multiplayer focused experience, but it does allow you to battle the AI in some single player modes. Skirmish is the standard multiplayer mode and allows you to play against AI in single player with up to 8 AI present. You can select a variety of maps and sub-modes and change the difficulty and teams around, so if you want to do a 1v7 on the hardest mode you could. Then you've got Survival. This is essentially a horde mode where you start in the center of the map with the town center and limited resources, and you have to survive as long as you can against waves of enemies from all different factions. Eventually, resources will start to run out, and it'll all come down to how well you built your economy. Next are the challenges. These are actually my favorite thing to do in single player. They're almost like little puzzles, as you're typically given 1 or 2 units and have to figure out how to beat a certain circumstance using the terrain or unit mechanics to your advantage. It teaches you things that you might not know about the unit, so it's a great way to get you familiar with a faction's more nuanced mechanics. Finally, there's the tutorial. Now I only checked this out after I'd already learned most of the mechanics, but I can say that it introduces each mechanic to you slowly one by one, so it should be pretty easy to learn for any newcomer. Now the main issue with the single player content is the AI. While DestinyBit are working on it and updated it a few times while I had the preview build, it has to be mentioned that it's pretty rough in its current state. On islands maps, I've yet to see the AI build a dock and leave their island. Sometimes they'll just stop working completely and leave their villagers all idle. They also have a great affinity for storage depots, building ridiculous amounts of them in a seemingly bugged out loop. When it comes to combat, they don't separate units much and blob everyone in through whatever entrance they can find, which makes them extremely gameable. You can create a tower defense type grid and they'll just follow the path through to your town center instead of attacking the walls and towers. What's more, if you do play with 7 AI in Skirmish, the game grinds to a halt and becomes extremely laggy. This is seemingly to do with the AI itself running, not the population counts. I've had less AI with bigger populations and more things on screen and it runs just fine. So I have to be honest, the game is not something you should purchase if you're looking for an engaging AI to battle or a single player experience. There's no campaign here, it's really all about the multiplayer. Because Empires Apart will live and die based on its multiplayer scene, I can't really give this game a score based on the early preview builds I've played. I think the mechanics are great, the visual style is excellent, it runs very well and it has all the trappings to be a great multiplayer game. But I only had the opportunity to play 3 multiplayer matches, so I can't really judge the balance or longevity of the game. First match I played was with Pixelated Apollo, which will be going up on my channel today alongside this review, so if you want to see how multiplayer plays, then you can check that out. I do think DestinyBit has provided something really good for fans of RTS games and built on the foundations of games like Age of Empires. Now I've seen comments and concerns that it's just an Age of Empires clone with less content, but I really do disagree with that. While it's super close to Age of Empires and does offer less factions, the factions have much more differentiation between them, both militarily and economically. It's created refreshing but familiar gameplay because of it. For me at least, while I love Age of Empires, those games are getting seriously old now and the remasters don't clear up a lot of the issues that become present after playing more modern games. Empires Apart is way more smooth and fluid to play and there really wasn't anything in terms of mechanics that I didn't enjoy. Nothing was frustrating or tedious to use. My only complaints was that the AI was pretty bad and maybe slowing the combat just a tad to allow people to read the battle a little bit better to see what's working and what isn't. And the spinning unit bug, well, pretty funny, that's gotta go. So that's it for my review of Empires Apart. Please let me know what you think of the game in the comments below. I genuinely want to know what you guys think of it. I mean, when looking to the future of something like an Age of Empires 4, do you think there's anything that could be learned or taken from Empires Apart, be it the hero units, the faction diversity, the art style, or do you think that more needs to be done to set the game apart, like a new resource or more in-depth combat mechanics? I don't know, let me know anyway. I do hope this game gets a bit more love and I'm eager to play multiplayer with people when the game releases. Thank you very much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.